is the tracking scanning, is it RFID, beacon, GPS? So let's get nerdy. Let's talk about some of the underlying technologies that kind of go into this. And
Yeah,
Andrew or Christian, yeah.
the technology we use is almost exclusively BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy. So, when you show the pairing process of people coming in to collect their badges on site, all of our hardware, all of our wearable devices are Bluetooth, and we use the native capability of the iPads that we're using to check in people. All iPads have Bluetooth, and that click to pair process, which is really, really quick, uses the iPad's Bluetooth technology. And so that element uses Bluetooth. Also, our attendee tracking system uses Bluetooth tracking beacons. So we find Bluetooth to be a more lightweight option, relatively speaking, compared to RFID. And we've perfected the technology over a good 7 or 8 years now. So Bluetooth is the way to go, in our opinion.
Do you rent the beacons? How many do you need? Is it square foot or is it by each doorway? So I think the doorway portion is important to answer as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is also related to the nature of our tracking technology. So again, thinking about the doorways and the foot mats and little stanchions that have our beacons kind of very visible in between seats, for example, that's all RFID technology. Our Bluetooth technology is a lot more minimalist, a lot more inconspicuous. So the beacons themselves, our technician team, our whole team will send those, and we'll figure out how many we need. And we'll send the right amount based on the zones that you want to track, but we don't charge per beacon. We basically charge, as I mentioned before in the pricing question, based on the sizes of the zones to be tracked. So we'll always send the right amount of beacons, necessary to track the event, but they're not going to be at the doorways. They're mostly going to be, under tables, under chairs. We're going to put them on walls. Most attendees will never ever see them or feel their presence, which is one of the beauties of Bluetooth technology versus RFID.
I love it. I also big fan, no, you don't have to do those truss gates that are kind of ugly. Oh, then I have to spend more money to put signage in front of them. We can very much blend it, I think, in, which is really, really cool. I think might be important to mention too, that for every device that gets returned by attendees helps save you as an organizer money. So that's one reason why it's more sustainable, but there's also, incentive for you to want to return these devices afterwards because we're refurbishing them and reusing them. So it saves you a ton of money as well. So Devin asked, how is location being tracked? I mentioned knowing where when someone a connection is made. So Andrew, I know you talked a little bit about how kind of positioning gets done, but maybe we can talk a little bit about how we determine where people are.
Yeah, this is probably a little bit more technical than my wheelhouse permits, but basically, again, with our Bluetooth tracking beacons, we sort of triangulate an attendee's position to, I think it's our closest 3 tracking beacons. So if we have 3 or 4 tracking beacons in a room, and then a couple of beacons right outside the room, if someone's just at the doorway, standing outside the room and not inside, our beacons outside the room will know that attendee is closer to the beacons outside than inside. So we know, by the force of them being outside, they're not in the room. So it's really kind of a triangulation that our genius hardware engineers invented many, many years ago.
It's fantastic.
Can I add also very quickly, in a room also we're going to do geofencing with our tags, so it really limits the rooms. So if you are in any regular conference venue, we're going to be completely fine. If you're in a park or in an open space outside, this is where we can find it a little bit more challenging. But
there's some creative ways that you can do it, I think, using
always.
Temporary walls.
Always.
And,
that's easy.
Our techs are just geniuses. When I've watched so many setups, they're like, right, where they hide them are just mind blowing. No. And that's, again, one of the reasons why it's better than a gate too. It's small, it's inconspicuous. Is the tracking in real time? Will I be able to see where individual attendees are minute by minute? Can I stalk an attendee and find exactly where they are?
Tracking is pretty close of real time. I'm talking about a few seconds off. You will be able to see where an attendee is if that attendee is on site in one of the zones that you have set. However, I think Andrew mentioned it before, if the attendee went for a walk, went to his hotel room, we're not going to be able to track them. And the goal of the tracking is not so much to do a minute by minute, but to get a broader understanding of your flow, of your attendee, what does he do? Where does he do? How long does he stay there for? Not so much knowing exactly like, Will, where were you every hour of that conference? Does that
But
answer
just
the
to add on to
question?
that, sorry, Christine, just to add on to that as well, we do have full data exports. We have all the raw data that we're capturing for any given tracked zone.
Right.
So, while you might not be able to see, or you might not want to see where a person is spending their time minute by minute, you can export all the attendee data after the event and then filter just by one person and see, where was Will, which sessions did Will attend on day 2, for example. And you can get down to that level of granularity. But we find most of our customers use Klik to aggregate data and really understand themes and trends about their events and kind of overall movements of different attendee types through their events. We
Great
have one
job.
from Shirley in the chat, in the
Yeah.
other chat, that's asking about moving a beacon to an offsite location.
Oh,
So
yeah, offsite. That was one of my
Shirley,
questions I was asking you guys.
Shirley, if I'm understanding correctly, you're asking about tracking an event offsite, in which case we certainly can do. In the past, we've done tracking of attendees at multiple events. The beautiful thing about Klik is that it scales really well. So assume your event is taking place in 4 or 5 buildings across LA, which is actually a use case that we had. Even if your event is taking place in simultaneous buildings, simultaneous actual physical locations, we can track different sites. We just need to put our beacons there, make sure our technology is there, and obviously know about this beforehand, and maybe a couple of hours before the offsite, or even an hour or a couple of minutes even, go to that area and put our beacons. So as long as it's not a total surprise, is what I'm getting at, we can definitely track any place. All we really need is Wi-Fi for our hubs, and sometimes we can even tether off of a phone. So the technology is very flexible in terms of it doesn't all have to be centralized in like the same room or even the same building, or possibly even the same city. I don't know how far we can get, but technically it doesn't have to be at all in the same area.
I
And
love it.
and if it's not about tracking, let's keep in mind also that the badge can store many contacts. I don't remember what's the exact, is it 70, 75 contacts that is outside of the venue. So if you go at a bar, you click with people, that information is going to get uploaded the next morning when you get back to the venue. So if there's tracking purposes, of course, we can move the beacon, as Andrew was saying, but attendees can still make the most out of the badge functionality.